Hello, everyone. Welcome to Popcast on the Rocks, episode 52 of the podcast where we talk about pop culture things that are interesting to us. My name is John, and I am joined by Andrea. We were gone for 1 week, but we're back.
Yeah. All right. Coming back strong.
Yeah, how's it going?
Good. So we missed a show last week, which is on me because we've been doing so much
Dare you.
housework stuff. I know, God, I'm the worst. How do you put up with me, John? So we've been doing some house projects that just kind of took over our lives the past couple of weeks, and are hopefully coming to a close now. Hopefully everything is settling down, because currently I'm in a different spot, as obviously any of our previous viewers can see. My background has changed, only temporary. And currently I'm in a big empty room that makes me feel like I'm some sort of like vagrant or squatter in my own home, because there's not really any furniture except for some folding chairs. We've got a TV on a blanket in a corner, just like real classy
Yep.
style over here. That's how we roll.
I can hear it. Like, it's emptier.
Yeah. It's been very strange on like every Zoom meeting call I've had for work. It's like my own voice is echoed and amplified, and I feel like I'm talking really loudly. But I think it's just, the way it's first.
Uh-oh. On my end, you're breaking up.
See,
Question is, am I breaking up too?
I think you're.
Well,
Our
I
router's
will.
currently hidden around here.
Okay, maybe you're back. What was that now? I heard your router hidden around here or something.
Yeah, I think it's just the fact that our router is like also one of the only pieces of furniture that's set up, but it's like moved and hidden, so it's also having a little bit of a shy time.
That's not good. Your router wants to be recognized.
I
Part of
know,
the
I
family.
know.
Don't hide it in a corner.
It's punishing me right now. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
But and enough about my home woes. How was your 2 weeks, John? What have you been up to?
A lot, I guess. I kind of took a bit of a break from D&D. I did
Oh,
I
okay.
did one more session with the first online group, and I think I actually over this 2 weeks I did an in-person one too. So I played with both groups, but then it was kind of like I sort of wrapped up a chunk, did a little wrap up summary thing with the one group, and I just been writing so much, it just became kind of all consuming.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime Ashley asks me what I'm doing or what I'm thinking about or whatever, I'd always be something with, drawing a map for D&D, writing something. So
Sure.
I'm just like taking a moment here, and then I'm sure when the next sessions come up, I'll have to like start powering through again. But so that we started Losing Alice on Apple TV Plus.
How is it so far?
Well, firstly, I'm very impressed because it seemed like there was going to be every show on Apple Plus was going to have like either a specific message or just very handheld in the way that they're produced. Like you have to meet these requirements, don't be too graphic, kind of it made a lukewarm kind of attitude about everything. And this was very adult.
Okay.
Very adult, straight from the bat. So it didn't feel like anything else on the program or on the service that I'd watched. Well acted. I didn't know the whole thing is subtitled. It's like an Israeli show. And
Interesting.
so, yeah. But Only seen episodes 1 and 2 thus far,
Okay.
but very promising.
Is
And
that Apple's release schedule or just that's all you've made it
no,
through so far?
there's some more out now. I
Okay.
know, I think last week there was another new episode that had dropped, so there are more than we have seen, but
Okay.
yeah.
It's hard. I feel
Um,
like on some platforms, it's like some shows are that old fashioned, like we're releasing weekly, like obviously WandaVision. And then
mhm,
sometimes it's like, no, it's all available and you can just binge watch it. So now you have to ask, now you have to
yeah,
check in
right.
and see, like, oh, is it because, that's the way they're releasing? So
Yep,
kind of interesting.
right. Absolutely. And the same with Promised Neverland. Didn't know for
Right.
sure if that was like an all drop or what. I've seen through episode 6.
Same.
I imagine there. Okay, I figured there'd be an episode 7 out by now, but
There
maybe
is.
not.
I just found it.
Oh, oh, okay, okay, all right. So yeah, what do you think of up to episode 6, non-spoiler wise?
Yeah, I mean, keeping it broad and non-spoilery, um, it's definitely a slower paced season than the first. Um, but it's ramping up now. Like episode 6 was big. There were some major events happening. You can see the trajectory of where this is going. So I tend to forgive the early episodes that are kind of, reestablishing where we are, trying to
Yep,
move us forward a little bit gently and not so like, you know, herky jerky to like all these different events and, like trying to keep up the excitement too much.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, I like the season so far. I don't know if it's going to measure up to season 1, but still like a solid program.
hmm Yeah, episode 6 was to me the turning point where
Mhm.
all of a sudden they started, um like the maturity of the show came through again, and we started
Mhm.
talking about different themes or having questions or conflict
Right.
between characters potentially that is interesting that we
Mhm.
got in season 1. And so yeah, I don't have a problem with the beginning of the season if this is the turning point and we really yeah, so if this is showing what we're about to get, I'm quite
Yep.
excited to continue. So,
Yeah, I felt like the show has more purpose again.
yep,
Like again, we are kind of building up into what's happening, keeping up with everybody, easing us back, finding, small new problems, some
yep,
bigger ones, and now we're like really getting into like the meat of it.
yep.
Um, which if you've seen episode 6, that was not an intended pun on meat there.
I mean, yeah, and it's not that like the question being asked in episode 6 hasn't been like explored before, but we want to see how these characters tackle it and what it means for this world, and
Right.
it's just always fun to see that going through those motions. So,
Yeah, yeah, it's especially fun to, like you said, sort of go back and examine some of the same questions, maybe in new parameters, new
yeah.
circumstances, new contexts.
Yep.
Um,
Does it
and
change the result? Does
right,
it make you reconsider
exactly,
your answer? Yeah.
exactly. So yeah, so I think the show's getting back into the really good stuff. So I'm excited.
Yep. Um, I had lost these blue light filtering glasses.
Hey, you found them.
Yeah, I didn't. I buy a new pair
Oh,
because I just my eyes like staring at the computer for I didn't used to have this problem.
hmm,
In college I'd be editing video or whatever all the time.
yeah.
But then whatever it is, like I my problem is I'd sit there for a few hours writing, and then I would go to playing a video game.
Hmm.
So it's just all screen time, and it never used to bother my eyes, but it really does now. And so I'm just
Sure.
trying to more eye drops, try to blink more, and then wearing these better blue light glasses to see if there's any relief for my eyes.
Sure.
But yeah, that's exciting. And then I've been reading, along with my nonfiction, been reading X-Men and Iron Fist for for fiction. Iron Fist just started again in the comic line, so issues 1 and 2. So I'm waiting for the third one to come out, and then X-Men Legends #1 came out, which is interesting because X-Men Legends it's taking artists and writers and stuff from back in the day and slotting in new stories to old issues. So, it'll say at the beginning where this story takes place between whatever old issues, and then they've had the same same artist and same writer at least back for those.
Interesting.
So I've liked it because it's a way to, sometimes a person's not a fan of where whatever universe is at the particular moment in its history or timeline, or with events happening, something giant happens or whatever. So this is a way to put you back in the space of a previous state of existence for the X-Men in this case. So.
Sure. Is the goal here to like change canon in any way, or is it just to like add on, provide some?
It's adding canon,
Sure. I mean, are they covering some major events, or is it just kind of like fluffy side story kind of things?
Definitely at this point with issue 1, definitely central characters are involved. And so I would imagine the attempt would be to add some depth or answer some questions that would have otherwise been kind of lacking. Because, I mean, certainly there's plenty of X-Men lines or in all kinds of comic books that are pretty surface. This happens, that happens. And so there's room to add depth. And maybe they'll do that.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, how far they're willing to go to, add to a story, add to a character. Like, are they willing to risk like major changes? Or like I said, is it going to be kind of fluffy?
Yeah. Yep. Right.
So very interesting.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm checking every week for new issues. So, and then I've got 3 other things I did this week. I mean, amongst other things, but I watched Temple of Doom.
No, you're only allowed 3. That is it.
We've been talking, I don't know how it came up exactly, but with Uncharted, talking about Uncharted games or something like that. And Indiana Jones, from which it's based. And Ashley hadn't seen any Indiana Jones movies since she was a kid.
Oh, okay. So she had watched them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so we watched Temple of Doom again, and it was just great fun. It's just a really classic, awesome movie. I know other than the most current one, it's considered the weakest of the trilogy, but I absolutely love it. And I love the score. The theme song in particular is very good. So that was a blast from the past, and holds up. Been listening to the new Pretty Reckless album. I don't know when exactly that came out, but I'm a fan of their first album. And
Same.
This new one has been pretty awesome.
Yeah. Taylor Momsen has really carved out a good solid identity for herself as the leader of Pretty Reckless, away from her like very innocent young, I was the little sister on Gossip Girl days.
Oh, I had no idea of her history or anything like that.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. I mean, that's kind of where she got like her start in the entertainment industry. Well, she really got her start as like Cindy Lou Who in Jim Carrey's The Grinch. But then, so another like very wholesome, sweet character.
Yeah.
And then she moved, like I said, up to Gossip Girl to play the little sister of one of the leads, and was very sweet for a while. And then all of a sudden, you can kind of see her develop, into like a serious musician and start being the leader of the Pretty Reckless. And she starts, kind of changing her look even on the show. And they just couldn't quite cope with that anymore. So she was written out, which I think and ultimately kind of ended up being a loss for the show, but good for her that this ended up being something like she really loves and is, I think, really great at.
I shared the first album with Val and Luke, my sister and mother-in-law,
Yeah.
and I thought they'd really like it. I never heard much from them about it because I thought that
Oh,
album
interesting.
was basically great beginning to
Mm-hmm.
end. I'm always looking for that album that I don't have to, skip most of the songs and I can enjoy
Mm-hmm.
front to back. And I really, really like that one. I was pretty disappointed by the follow-up album. I never got into it. But
Yep.
then there's this one now that feels to me like a real return to form. And I was reading a little bit about it, how they had played with or opened for Chris Cornell on
Yeah.
tour.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were close. And so she took kind of a break when he died. And so some of the songs in here are sort of, he was in mind when the album was written.
Sure.
And you really can hear that in at least a couple of the songs. So
Sure.
But
well, your sister should enjoy that, being the Chris Cornell fan that she is.
Right. Yep. So that's been good. And then it's never left my mind that when I was doing, we've been studying more Japanese again, and a while ago when we were on this app that allows you can talk to people from a different country and back and forth, and they're interested in learning English and you're interested in learning Japanese, or there's for other languages too, but you get to talk to locals that way and kind of learn things. Because it's one of the biggest things when you're trying to learn a language is not being able to have any sort of conversation.
Sure. So how does it work? Is it like a phone call? Do you record something? Is it like texting back and forth, or?
Yeah, so I haven't done it in quite a while, but you definitely can text and then you can do recording.
Okay. All right.
If there's a call option, I don't remember. I never did that.
Okay.
But you could try to say stuff back and forth, and then their person might correct you, know, and it was really cool. But you share a little bit about yourself. Often they're interested in what you do, what life is. Some people are just what life is like where you're at or whatever. And I always said that, I'm a farmer and I raise corn and soybeans. And the question was, what's your favorite food to make with your soybeans? And I thought, well, that's, nothing actually. They all get sold, because it's a very different picture. I shared a picture of a lawn that I had just mowed, and they're like, wow, you must be very tired after all that. It's like, I didn't walk that. Like that was
a riding mower.
Yeah. So it's just interesting to go back and forth between the cultures, but it made me think about the soybeans and what I could make with it.
Okay.
So I was going to make like fermented soybean paste. That was the initial plan. But I kind of looked into that, and that's a lengthy process that requires like space and smells and dealing with a lot of mold. And I just didn't want to go there. Yeah. And
but why ever not? You're making it sound so appealing right now.
I know, right? And just really quickly, hey Mike, thanks for jumping in here.
Hey Mike.
So what I decided on was tofu. So I made my own tofu over the last couple weeks or whatever, and that's one of the ingredients we put in our sumo soup. So.
And that didn't involve like lengthy time or smells or mold or any of the other various, fun stuff you described.
No. So you took some of it for soy milk, and it's very strong in flavor, I will say. So I think that if I was going to focus on milk, I'd need to cook it longer. But the tofu was quite good. I made my mistake and my learning point was not pressing it firm enough. It was too
okay.
So
so it broke apart a little bit.
Yeah, you can like when you buy tofu, you can get extra firm, you can get different kinds and stuff. And this,
Yeah.
when I shaped it, it was a little too wide already. And so if I were to press it far enough, it would got really thin. And so my learning next time, my next batch is going to be shaped a little different and pressed firmer.
Okay.
So, but yeah,
Okay.
that's been my adventures or my different things, my culinary things this week and whatever.
Nice. Yeah, you've had quite the 2 weeks off. It's been very varied
Yeah, I
between
mean,
D&D, X-Men, Indiana
I know.
Jones. You've
Keeping
made
it.
your own tofu. My
Yep.
goodness.
Yep. It's crazy. Mike wants my thoughts on tofurkey. Tofu turkey.
Yeah.
For the
Can my
audio
face be my
listeners,
thought?
to describe your face for the audio listeners. Maybe your silence says it.
Let's just say my frown is turned upside down. Is not turned upside down by the thought of tofurkey.
I think that I've not had tofurkey, so I guess I can't strictly comment. I don't look at tofu as a meat replacement. That would be the
Sure.
thing. I'm not like, so initially when I first heard of tofu, it's like, well, why don't you just eat meat kind of thing, But it's just an extra protein element to something that has basically no flavor. Or very little flavor, and so it just absorbs whatever flavor you give it.
Right.
And so for those kinds of things, that you just want to add a little protein quick, I think it's great.
Sure.
It's light. And
Yeah, my problem with tofurkey is the fact that like when I was young, my parents used to buy those like Jenny O turkey meatloaf, like in a tin things that were like pre-made, and they were like this gloppy, horrible, like spamish texture. But there was like a taste, but it wasn't like real. None of it was real. I can't even describe it. So like every time I have tried tofurkey, which is not often, I'm just like right back to those like horrible childhood memories of like that slimy thing covered in like way too much like gloopy gravy.
Yep.
It's like all artificial, and it's just traumatizing. Can't handle it. So.
I mean, yeah, I am not a fan of things. Generally speaking, I am not a fan of things that aren't meat that are trying to be meat.
Yeah.
Eat meat or eat not meat.
Right.
My preference, eat both.
Right.
Meat,
Same.
meat. But yeah. So.
Yeah, imitation anything is usually going to be just like dicey.
Okay,
and unsatisfying.
So what's your take on imitation crab? Because that's so popular, and a lot of people really like that for certain things. It has its own kind of taste. It's not like crab, really.
I know. I don't love it.
A lot of people like. Okay.
I don't. I mean, it's not to me as like traumatizing, as what I was just describing, but it's just not good. Like it's not what I want. Like I'm not excited about it.
Pollock. Alan says pollock.
That was a great little gift there.
Yeah.
Little fishy animation.
Mike,
that was cute.
What's your take on imitation crab? Let's hear it. Hey, Mike he probably said that before I did. When tofu tries to look like meat, it's an issue.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
Complete agreement. Tofu is its own thing, and that is totally fine. I will take or leave it as its own thing. Like I don't want it to be something else.
Yep. All right. On with do you have anything else you want to talk about your couple weeks here before we get to drinks and some news?
Not really. I mean, I kind of have been consumed with the house stuff, so I haven't had as much time to pursue as many things as you have. But I did get time to finish up uh, the seasons of Peter Capaldi as the Doctor. We were just talking about
Okay.
that. So I'm now finally up to Jodie Whittaker and about to like check out her, assumption of the role, which I'm very excited about. Just to see what that's like. And then of course we finished Promise Neverland up to what I thought was the final point, and then I discovered that episode 7 is up. So I'm excited to watch that tonight. And then the other thing that I did, which was very adult and responsible of me, if I do say so myself, is that I continued to read the I Don't Know How to Give Birth manga that you and Ashley got me in preparation for obviously our big blessed event that is coming in March at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like it. I'm almost done with it, and it's a fun way to get very helpful information and very
Sure.
actually surprisingly detailed information without like being too detailed. It's a good mix between informative and fun and lighthearted, but also, allowing you to be kind of emotional about certain stages of your journey, especially if you've had struggles. So, yeah,
Sure.
surprisingly a very like poignant and insightful manga. So yeah, good deal
Nice.
on that. Way to go.
Well,
Good gift. Nailed
I'm
it.
I'm not wishing for it, but I had to say it would make an interesting podcast if, like next week, all of a sudden you went into labor during the episode.
Indeed. How long would I be able to keep a straight face and not show? Um,
You better bring your phone as you're riding to the hospital. You can keep streaming.
That's right. That's right. It'll be a live episode like you've never seen it before.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, we without naming any names, we did have some friends go into surprise labor this week, so it's definitely a possibility. Either next week or the following that I could. So we'll see. Better tune
I
in and
we
find out.
What we really need to get is so a lot of streams they'll have a little thing that pops up on the screen or whatever. And Alan's been playing with the bots and stuff.
Yeah.
We have a thing where anytime someone says it's a possibility, we automatically get a little thing that says like a banner that says it's a possibility, and then has like a picture of like Bella from Twilight or something. Because no one can say it's a possibility in the world ever without me immediately singing in my head, there's a possibility, and then just like thinking Twilight every time.
Oh my God. That's so
On
funny. Yeah,
it's
totally. That's so
so
funny.
that should happen. And Alan, you got to be on that button. Boom.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. Poor Alan. He won't be able to take breaks during the show anymore. He's just going to be like poised, trigger finger on that
Yeah.
button.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, those are our week's drinks. Found some great stuff. I am celebrating today.
Excellent.
I
Excellent.
know,
Way to
what a
represent.
perfect one.
I know.
Yes.
I felt like today was kind of a big day. So last week we missed, unfortunately, National Kahlua Day, which was on February 27th. So if you're a fan of Kahlua, that was your day. But of course, any day can be Kahlua Day if you'd like it to be. But today is Mulled Wine Day, and it is also National Irish Whiskey Day, which
Yeah.
I'm guessing is the one you're celebrating.
Yeah, which I'm sure you're feeling bummed about.
I
Not
am. It's like
participating, right?
crushing me.
That's like the one.
I know,
Yeah.
and it's even worse because so for Valentine's Day, I got Chris like a cute little, dad whiskey glass. And then I also got him a nice bottle of Jameson Black Barrel, which I am
Okay,
like
yeah.
super stoked to try out. And if I'd had my baby
Yeah.
already, I could have been doing it today. But damn it, she's still in there.
I'll come to the hospital with this for you, all right? And you can have one on me then after
All right.
something. So this is a Jameson cold brew.
Oh, I almost got that. That's so funny because Chris's
Yeah.
favorite whiskey is Jameson. So I was considering, how is that?
It's very good. You
Okay.
can definitely taste the coffee
Mm-hmm.
notes in there, and we don't have much for Irish whiskey here,
Sure.
but this is one of them we got left, and it's yeah, it's really good. It's really good.
Nice. Nice. I will definitely
Definitely
check
gives
that
it a
out next time I
different
can.
color than you'd look at in traditional Irish whiskey that you'd think would be more amber.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's much darker.
yeah, but yeah, tasty stuff. I'll save one for you. So
Appreciate it. I'll cheers you once I'm through the labor.
yeah. All right. We got a little news. Try
Yeah.
to power through some of it, I suppose, because I don't have a lot to say necessarily on some of it, but
Sure.
it's interesting to me, anyways. And then we'll get to WandaVision episode 7 and 8. It's a double hitter
Yes.
today.
That's
Uh,
right.
or
Lot
what's a better phrase for? Probably, I don't know, but two of them. Yes.
a double header,
So
yeah.
yeah, yep. Um, yeah. Okay, so Golden Globes. I forgot they were happening. Did
Mhm.
you not forget they were happening, or were you up on it, or you're like,
Um
oh yeah, that happened?
yeah, I was more like that happened. The day after when I saw, I kind of opened my news feeds and saw, lists of winners and
Mhm.
saw a little red carpet action, which was fun. Um, I thought it was kind of fun that, everybody kind of still made some attempts at, like this is an award show, we're going to dress up. Even though it was like pretty much all virtual. Yeah, it was still kind of a fun award show. Still kind of one of the funnest, I think. And it kept that reputation because, all the stars were at home coming in via Zoom and whatnot, but they were all like drinking or they were all on like different time zones. So like Jason Sudeikis, who won Best Actor in a comedy series for Ted Lasso, he was on London time and he was joining the broadcast and it was like 3 a.m. and he was just so looped out of his mind and just super super tired, but like of course that made it real fun.
Sure.
So I caught some
So
of the,
you
like
kind of went
the
back and
big,
watched some.
yeah,
Yeah,
I caught some of like the big hits of the night. Caught Tina Fey and Amy Poehler hosting again, which even though they weren't playing to a room necessarily, they were still on it. Like their chemistry was still there, and I
yeah.
think them hosting the Globes is just such like a perfect fit, and it continues to be even in the digital age.
I did love the commercials that I've been seeing coming
Mm-hmm.
up. It's like, the host you deserve or something, and if we're lucky, the
Yes.
last award show ever or something.
Yes. Yeah.
Here, here.
They just
But
play so well off each other, whether they're in the same room in front of, 600 people or thousands of miles apart via Zoom and, playing to two people. They're excellent. So,
did you think there were? I mean, did you see the list and get shocked by anything, or were you particularly happy or upset by any winners or
yeah,
something
so
like that?
I thought that there were some very predictable winners. I thought that Chadwick Boseman winning for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, that was something I probably could have predicted, and I think probably anybody could have.
Sure.
Not saying that it's not deserved, but just like was one of the least surprising to me. Nomadland winning Best Picture was also very unsurprising to me. But Borat winning for Best Picture
Mm,
musical or comedy, I was very shocked at. Going up against Hamilton, I was pretty sure that that was going to be a shoe in.
sure.
Um, so that sort of rocked my world a little bit. But of course, it gave us a great opportunity to hear from Sacha Baron Cohen, who is always funny, I think. Um, Andra Day winning for the United States versus Billie Holiday was also, to me, shocking against Viola Davis, against Frances McDormand, Vanessa Kirby. All of their performances were just so praised. And I feel like since The United States versus Billie Holiday isn't even out yet, I had heard nothing about it other than it was coming. So it just sort of like hit me out of left field. But yeah, I think a lot of the other ones were pretty unsurprising.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't have a horse in the race really, though. I see Gillian Anderson won supporting actress for The Crown, and
Crown.
I think she's very good. I think she's a really, really good actress.
Yeah, The Crown kind of swept, some best actor, actress categories.
Sure.
Which again, unsurprising, especially when you're dealing with like what people consider is the best part, or the juiciest part, I should say, of the royal family's history and saga. I mean, the Princess Diana years.
Sure.
They're the good ones. So I think that was pretty unsurprising to me. I wasn't surprised by this, but I love that it happened. Catherine O'Hara winning for Schitt's Creek. That was great. I love her. And I love that she got recognized for the work that she does on that show, because she definitely carries a lot of the show's more outrageous moments on her, and she turns them into, stuff that in a I think a less talented actor's hands you could roll your eyes at or be annoyed by, and she just like carries it and plays it off really well. So good for her.
Okay. From this list, I still really want to see Soul, I guess.
Yeah.
I intend to watch that one yet. And especially knowing here that Atticus Ross and Trent Reznor did the soundtrack and won for that.
Absolutely.
Best score. And then I've been told, and I should probably at some point watch the Gambit one, Queen's Gambit.
Oh, Queen's Gambit. Yeah. So, I've got that on my list too.
So maybe I'll get there.
That's one of those shows where it came in like super hot and it was very popular, and I was almost about to start watching it, and then everybody was talking about it, and then I got that thing where it's like, oh, it's like everybody's
it's
like
over now.
Like, well, it's like everybody's buzzy show, and like we all got to talk about it, and then it makes me want to like not watch it.
You're too cool for it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I'm not going to just be part of the group.
That's right. I got my own thoughts. I go my own way. So now that the hype has kind of died down, I do want to see it.
Sure. Yep. Well, I knew the other week that the Golden Globes were supposed to be coming sometime soon, so that's why it's decided, hey, let's watch Mank.
Yeah.
And just like, I say pop that in, but whatever started it on streaming service. Because it seemed like a movie I should like, given the people behind it.
Sure.
Director, score, lead actor, and then there's many other talented actresses within the film as well.
Yeah.
But I was left pretty meh about it.
Yeah, you were left wanting.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's in part like I just didn't care about the setting, the central actual happenings of the plot. It just wasn't that interesting. It's not what I expect from David Fincher in any way. Which is fine. Of course, he could, do other things, that's great. But I've liked so many of his films. So many of them have kept me on the edge of my seat. Even the music videos, I guess he's done a lot of like Madonna videos and things and whatever. And I just like all that stuff. And this was This was a slow start. I really didn't know, because we hadn't talked about like, let's watch this, for the show or anything like that. So I really didn't know if I was going to keep watching it even.
Yeah.
But I guess something kept me there. How about you?
Yeah, I also struggled through the opening of the film. Not least, I think, because of its format, which in the end I realized was, deliberately designed, um, kind of as a nod to the very broken up, scenically Citizen Kane. It's kind of episodic that way. So it sort of is like a nod to the film that, is the subject of
Right.
this film. So very meta film within a film.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I had a bit of trouble with the beginning, and then it hooked me a little bit in the middle, and then by the end, I agree. I was sort of left wanting again. Um, there didn't really seem to be any stakes ever in the film, or at least ones that were conveyed to be pressing enough to be, engaging. It was all sort of like low buzz in the background, and nothing ever really elevated itself to the point of being like, this is the thing that either we're fighting for, or we're supposed to care about, or is the central problem. It was all it, the pacing never
It's mundane.
indicated. Yeah, it was all very mundane, but also and I know that can be, you know, like a mirror of life. I mean, life isn't always very exciting, and you can find
Right.
extraordinary moments in the mundane, but it never really felt like we got there.
Hmm.
It never really felt like we elevated anything about the mundane other than, look at it, here it is.
Yep.
And it wasn't even so much that I needed to be told like, this is the message or this is what we should care about. It's just that I didn't
Right.
care.
I mean,
Which is so
the
surprising.
sure. I mean, the idea to me is that you're supposed to care about this character Mank. And I think that maybe this would make more sense as a documentary short,
Sure.
or like, it seems interesting to me if
Or like some
off of a pitch.
episodes, you
Yeah,
know,
just, well, if
like a
you were
mini
if you got the
series or
pitch,
something.
yeah, yeah, maybe.
I mean,
But then you have to have something kind of interesting and happen in each episode,
you
you
would,
know.
but I think you could do that differently in breaking this kind of show up, and maybe have actual time to play around with like some of the events that were happening, because I feel like they were interesting, but we always got everything at a surface level. We didn't like dive down deep into, um you know like a specific event. Like, we dealt with the 1934 election. That could have been
Mhm.
like something really, really interesting to like dig into and to see through the eyes of this character, because he was so different than, most of the other movie executives that
Right.
were, there. So we could have spent like a whole episode, really digging into this, instead of sort of like glossing over this very surface level, this is an issue, it's causing some trouble. Whoop, we're past it now. We're on to the next thing.
Yeah, it wasn't enough to care, it wasn't
Yeah.
enough, you know, it, so like I wrote in my comments, like, I'm not up enough on this particular gubernatorial race to like fact check it as we go.
Mhm.
But there wasn't, because that's what I felt like I needed to do. There wasn't enough
Mhm.
meat there
Yeah.
to understand. It's like, okay, so let's assume you understand in depth this particular race, and then have our characters discussing it. Well,
Mhm.
it's like, I don't, I don't even know what to think here,
Yep.
because we don't have any detail or context or whatever. And if you want that to be an important element of the film, then that would need to be set up earlier, and really it would be sh- drastically shifting the focus of the film.
Mhm.
Like, you can still be understanding this from Mank's perspective,
Right.
but whereas the film is about Mank getting this particular script done, this
Yes.
particular write through.
Yep.
This is all of a sudden, it's like we get to see, I understand what influences him in
Yeah.
this story. So
Yeah.
like again, it on pitch level, this sounds like it could be interesting, you
Mhm.
know, but
But
it
you've
just they didn't manage to make it interesting.
exactly, because you've covered exactly what was in the film already. Do you know what I mean? Like there's no in-depth look. It's
Yeah.
basically just a series of pitches of like, why don't we have him be here next and have this thing happen?
Mhm.
And then it's just like somebody filmed exactly what somebody was pitching and then moved on to the next thing and just like followed this very surface level outline of what things could we have happened to this character instead of
Yep.
staying there and spending some time. So that's why I kind of think it maybe would have worked if we still wanted to do this either as a shorter film with other things, maybe chopped out a little bit, or you really like dug down deep and got interesting on like a deeper level of all these influences, um that were affecting or influencing or in the even in the back of this character's mind as he was writing Citizen Kane.
Yep.
Because I
And
think it's a fascinating question and it's a fascinating topic because Citizen Kane is like so ubiquitous with like this is the best film ever. And it was
right.
that way for so long and it was just like hard fact. It wasn't even
And if
like
the
you
wrong
get an
person's getting
opinion.
the credit,
Yep.
like
Yep.
tell that story.
So interesting.
Right.
Absolutely. And Gary Oldman, I mean, you have a brilliant actor there who
Yep.
made me care about his performance as much as I could,
Right.
given the circumstances. I thought he did a great job, but like he's so capable of more if you give him more.
Mhm.
So why waste the incredible talent that is Gary Oldman on this like surface level picture?
Mhm. I just think that still the documentary that is specifically drawing parallels
Mhm.
between events in his life and how he has brought that his interpretation of those events and brought that into Citizen Kane
Sure.
is a more interesting way to see this because to me it's almost like you need to see this film having first seen it's like prerequisites, I guess. You should see Citizen Kane, and
Yes.
then you should do a few hours research on the time period and maybe the making of Citizen Kane, and then you should watch this film.
Mhm.
If you're
Yeah.
gonna get enough out of it, you know,
For
um,
yeah, for it to
I
be
don't know.
meaningful. Mhm.
Yeah. Maybe that's my fault, but generally with a film, there aren't prerequisites.
Mhm.
You're not doing your job as a filmmaker if there are much.
Yeah.
You know,
And I would agree with you. Um, I mean, I shouldn't need to feel that, I need to do some background research into a film before I go to get it. Um, in maybe very few notable exceptions. Um, not to say that I can't or that it's, not possible, but it
right?
shouldn't be a necessity
Right.
to understand the movie on a deeper level. There's certainly obviously movies that where you can always look up details and be like, "Oh, this
Yes.
enhances my understanding." But
Absolutely.
yeah, but this felt like too much work, which I think was very ironic given the fact that so much of the movie explores the movie audience and what they can handle, and was Citizen Kane going to be too much for a movie audience? And the early part of writing, everybody's talking to Mank and they're like, no, you're doing too much, you're doing too much, like you're making this too complicated. Movie theater goers don't want this
Right.
intense film. Like the advice he got was write hard but aim low.
Hmm.
And I just thought like, oh no, that I'm a movie goer and I don't turn off my complex thought processes when I go see a film. And if
Right.
even I'm feeling like, you know, this movie didn't give me enough, maybe it really suffers from that problem in and of itself.
I mean, I don't know. Um, there's, I don't know, a level of conceit, I guess, where people just think that because they're telling something and they're saying, they have a complex thing dealing with complex issues, and
Mm-hmm.
that somehow you should just get it, agree, and follow along.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just not, that's not proper filmmaking. That's not the way it
Right.
works, or writing, or anything like that. Like,
Right.
it is your ability to communicate complex ideas in a way that people understand it that's important. So that's not a dumbing down. That's efficacy of writing, or
Right.
whatever, of communication. And if you take something like your wedding registry item, Schindler's List, and you take a person that is 16 and they've lived in a bubble all their life. They have
Mm-hmm.
no idea of the outside world, or any form of history, anything other than they can speak English and read. And you show them that movie. That movie will have an impact. It will
Mm-hmm.
have a profound impact on you, and it has meaning, and the film is understood. Now, that would take someone that doesn't know any background,
Mm-hmm.
and would quite possibly inspire them to learn more, and to, yes, enhance and further deepen the impact that film would have.
Right.
But the film stands on its own and is a powerful piece of art,
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, and not that these two films need to be the same thing, but it's not, it's just against the idea of prerequisites. So
Right, right. I agree. There's a line between, trusting your audience and then giving them nothing, or
yep.
nearly nothing. And unfortunately, I think Mank um does the latter. It doesn't give enough for its audience to like really understand why these things matter so much, and um why they should connect with it on a deeper level.
Yep. Yep. And you can make real life mundane things interesting. Look
Mhm.
at the Coen brothers.
Yep.
uh that can be done.
Yep.
I know adding comedy or a different element can make that, or a black comedy or something like that, dark
Mhm.
humor. But
Mhm.
yeah, so
Well, yeah, and I mean, certainly can be done in this sort of, dramedy kind of setting as well, but again,
mhm.
just doesn't quite get there.
Yep.
So, unfortunately disappointing.
Yep.
Looked really fun, looked really great. Like you said, good cast.
Yeah.
A lot of talent in there, just nothing
I
much
think that's what
doing.
kept me. I think that's what kept me.
Yeah.
I kept seeing new cast members. I was like, oh, that person, that's awesome. And
Yep.
just another, they kept coming. So,
Yeah, another like, "Oh, what are we gonna do with this guy?" And then,
mhm.
unfortunately,
Nothing.
nothing.
Yep. Yep. All right. Well, that's that.
Mhm.
All right. So we got a little bit of a film discussion quickly before the news even. So my
That's
gosh,
right.
I'm sorry if we spoiled anything for you there, but you don't need to watch it anyways. Um, so in a very different kind of film, very super real life,
Mhm.
Aquaman, they are making a sequel to that film
Yes.
with Jason Momoa. And there's a rumor going around that the Dragon Queen herself, Queen Daenerys, Emilia Clarke, may take up the role um, of, blanking on her name, but take
Mira.
Amber Heard's, yeah, Mira's role in the sequel. And I just
Indeed.
wanted to see what you thought of this cast change, if this rumor happens to be true.
Sure, sure. I ugh, I'm not sure that I like it. Um,
Okay.
I mean, first of all, I read some, articles around this rumor. Um just trying to discern whether or not, it was really true or how
Sure.
true it might
Yeah.
be. Um, and it seems a lot of guesswork right now. Um,
Okay.
but there is definitely a report out there that, Amber Heard is being considered to be fired because she didn't like meet her physical requirements for the movie, which I think is a terrible smokescreen for like we might fire her for like all the other controversy that's
Litigation.
going around. Yeah, the litigation. And if that's the case, just do that. Don't try to find something else. Um, or like stretch that truth. If it's the litigation, it's the litigation, and let her go, and that's it. Um, but moving on to like specifically Emilia Clarke replacing her, I don't know that that's a good idea just because like she and Jason Momoa have already like been Khaleesi and Khal Drogo. And not that I don't think that they have chemistry, because like obviously I think they did. Game of Thrones, like they were so much fun to watch. They were such like crazy weird opposites that somehow ended up being very endearing for a very short part of the show.
Sure.
Um but I don't know that you want to replicate that or touch any of that, or, you
Let
know,
it be.
yeah, I don't know that you want to like try and recapture any of that in a different context, especially something so different. Um, yeah, I think people will always be drawing comparisons. I think they'll be like looking back at, oh, but when they were, Khaleesi and Khal Drogo and, stuff like that. So, not to say that they can't ever work together again, because of course they can, but I would be leary of her
And it can be
replacing
that
Amber Heard
they can be
in this
that new
context.
couple, that new Hollywood couple that's
Yeah.
always, working
Working
together.
together. Yeah.
Work
New
couple.
new like Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling. They
Yeah.
did like 4 or 5 movies or something together, I think. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting.
I
I
think
don't
it'd
know.
be tough. I think it'd be very, very tough because not only would Emilia Clarke need to step into that role and win over people who either liked Amber Heard or like myself have a hard time, with recasting anybody,
Right.
even if they're terrible. Sometimes I still have, just like I get stuck. Um, so not only would she need to do that, but then she would also, need to step into that role, work with Jason Momoa and make it different than their chemistry, like I said, from Game of Thrones. So it's a lot of work to do.
So, have you ever not seen a film or television show because someone that works on or plays a part in that role or in that show is a part of a litigation ongoing, or you find something they've done or said distasteful? Does that keep you from seeing the work? And do you think that, and what do you think most people do on a general basis?
Yeah, I would say probably for most people, it would be a consideration, but not necessarily strong enough to avoid a particular film or project. Um, for myself, I've definitely had those thoughts about like, oh, like there's things out there that I, you know, don't want to support or don't want to, lend support to. It does vary, of course, uh, um, on things that I personally care about, or the seriousness of what I think is either a rumor or it's a proven fact, or it's I'm far less likely to give credence to something like a rumor, um, you know, and than I would if, like the star was like actually appearing in court or something.
Sure.
Um, yeah. So, I mean, I would say probably like 75% of the time it doesn't affect my decision, but there's a small percentage of things I can think of that I'm like, no, Like, I don't need to go out of my way and support this.
Sure.
Luckily it's never been anything I've truly, truly desperately cared about. And I've
Right.
had to make that like horrible, awful like choice. But
Yeah.
yeah, I would say it
Yeah.
plays a factor, a small one, albeit.
I just wonder, I have no real sense for the general population and how
Yeah.
involved or aware, on any number of things. And I always think it's an odd it's an odd trend that somehow a company that's making a film that employs hundreds and hundreds of people to get the thing done thinks that they're somehow the reputation, like somehow the beliefs or reputation of the company hinges on the particular beliefs or reputation of a particular employee.
Mhm.
um it's particularly when, I mean, it's different if you're like your said company and you hire someone as large as an ambassador, or you're a sales rep, or you're someone that has to go and negotiate deals with different company, like different elements of business where you're a real person presenting
Yeah.
real person self to another entity as a representative of who you're employed by. Whereas like a
Yeah.
made up piece of art, again, with hundreds and hundreds or 1,000 people working on.
Sure.
And is anyone going to not go see Aquaman because some people are aware that one of the people that's in that film
Right.
is in entangled in litigation? And
Sure.
this can
Well,
span all kinds of things, but in this particular instance.
yeah, well, here's what I would maybe offer as like a counterpoint to that, because I do agree somewhat, especially for certain films. But for something like Aquaman, where you're going to do press tours and you're going to do Comic Cons and you're going to do like interactions with people as yourself, the movie studio does sort of end up hiring you as a little bit of ambassador of their brand, because you go out and you do the press tour. Like Jason Momoa goes out as Jason Momoa. He's not going out as Aquaman. And
Right.
he's, talking to all that press, and if something happened to him, they're going to bring that up. So, you know, I do think that is somewhat of a consideration for a company. Like, ooh, how is this going to look if, Jason Momoa's or Amber Heard in this instance, is going through these like legal troubles? Is every single reporter on the press tour going to bring it up? Is it going to be brought up at Comic-Con? Is it going to overshadow this film? You know, so I would say in this instance, perhaps yes, a consideration. Um, for another type of general film that isn't going to get, you know, like either an award season or like a Comic-Con sort of press junket. No, because, you're hiring them for that job, then they're going away and that's the end of it. If you're hiring them and you know that they're going to be sent out to make the rounds, do the marketing, maybe do the award season press tour, yeah, that I do think it
Yeah.
factors.
I think that so much of the, because I definitely understand the press tour, because a lot
Mhm.
of people, weird things come out, or you see how people, actors act with one another.
Mhm.
There's sometimes awkward things where you see them interacting with their other members of the cast, and you can tell when there's great chemistry or
Yep.
when they don't get along.
Yep.
So those things, come to people's attention. But I think there's this idea that, the press junkets and the press rounds are still done out of, again, this old hat that is
Yeah.
Hollywood. This way
Yep.
is still stuck in the past. And some other industries have been pushed forward or whatever because of um, coronavirus regulations
Mhm.
and rules or whatever, to where like E3 for gaming was always a big place where people would come together and they pay thousands and thousands of dollars to get a booth and they show up because that's where all the attention's going to be. But they're starting to realize they don't have to do that.
Yeah.
We don't have to waste all this money to do this. We can just put out a video on YouTube and do it. We can do our own promotion for little to nothing. The press things, sometimes they don't send people on press tours.
Yeah.
They keep someone out of the press tour. Also, sometimes they're very selective in who they allow to talk to them. These are the kinds of questions you can ask, or these
Mm-hmm.
are the questions you can ask. And then so they get, 24 media outlets all day, and they're literally asking the same questions all day because that's what they're expected to do.
Sure.
And
Sure.
so if you don't want to even be involved in that, like, production of an event, you don't have to do those things anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a fair point for sure. I just think for something like DC, who's already struggling to land something, make an impact, I feel like this is unfortunately a little bit of lose-lose in terms of you either take Amber Heard out of any press tour, only have her speak to certain journalists, and then even that, I mean, you can dictate journalists, but you can't dictate like a fan at Comic-Con, just like coming up and just going rogue. So that would be tough. So it's lose that way, and then it's like lose if you do end up recasting her. You've got to like reestablish that character all over again. Yeah.
Yep.
So
I would love to do a poll, a nationwide poll, that spans all age groups, and it would have to be at least 2,000 people. And I want to ask them if they, one, know who James Gunn is.
Oh, okay.
Two, know anything, like, so just have you heard the name?
Yeah.
Two, do you know anything about him?
Mm-hmm.
And three, have you seen Guardians of the Galaxy 1 or 2?
Okay.
I would love to know the answer and how that correlates, because James Gunn notoriously was fired over a scandal from Disney.
Yep.
I'm willing to bet a fair sum of money that of those 2,000 people of all age ranges throughout a nationwide poll, barely anyone knows who James Gunn is. The name means nothing to them.
Mm-hmm.
And they know nothing about him if you were to tell him who he is.
Sure.
A certain age bracket.
Sure.
In a certain like, so certain, maybe a breakdown, but I don't know how it all break down. There'd be a chunk of people that would know. But then you'd have younger and older, and it'd be all, they have just no idea. And I want to see the correlation. That did they see Guardians of the Galaxy and then still not know who he is?
Yeah.
And like,
I would caveat that second question with do you know anything about James Gunn with, if you do, what is it? Just so you could know, like, who knows, like, what, the issue, potential issue there would be.
Do you know of him? If you know about James Gunn,
right, exactly. What is it? Yeah. Do you literally just know him as, oh, he's the, director of Guardians of the Galaxy, or like, do you know about like the whole Disney firing thing? So yeah. Because then you could get a true measure, I think, of who knew about it and then saw those movies anyway.
Yep. I think there's a very lazy element to PR out there that is, well, let me search Twitter hashtags. Let me poke around Twitter, and that's my research. Yeah. My data, my rock solid data for the consumer base is Twitter. And I think that it's, again, I don't have data to back this up, so I'm just going. But I'm just saying, I think there's some more data that needs to be shown here for these multi-million-dollar companies that make these decisions, seemingly on a whim, based on the cries of Twitter.
Yeah, it would be interesting to somehow, get some sort of like real hard data, and then also conversely, I'd love to be in a room. When those decisions are made, and like what criteria do they use? What do they talk about? Like whose vote has most sway, and what kind of arguments are they using? It'd be fascinating, I think.
Yep. I only hope that people will eventually adapt to the pace of news and the news cycle that we are upon now, and will real, they'll change. I think that's what freaks people out yet.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, they get hit with a wave of
Yes.
something, and then they freak out for a moment. It's like, hold on, guys, give it 72 hours
Yeah.
and chill, and
Yeah.
realize that your problem is not a problem, and you're making it into one.
Right. Or if it's still there after 72 hours, then maybe you've got a problem.
Yeah,
You know what I
let
mean?
cooler heads prevail here when they never seem to.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Lots of gaming news this week. And I don't have to like go through it all or whatever, I guess, just to say that Persona 5 Strikers came out this week. Ashley's playing it, loves it. She might be done with it right now. She's been between clients, like powering through that. Very good. What are you sharing with me, Alan? You trying to give me more news here?
He is.
Is this late breaking? It seems pretty recent. So his shared.
The article is dated for tomorrow. I love it. That's how late breaking it is. It's dated for March 4th.
Where does it say that?
In the hyperlink that he sent you.
Oh, interesting.
It's
when you
dated
click on
for tomorrow.
It says today.
Okay. It's news from the future.
Yeah. Well, it's information. Probably it's about a new. So there's been rumors of a new Nintendo Switch model since the Switch came out, and it seems like the TLDR is Samsung Display will start production of a 7-inch panel in June to propel the Switch against the Xbox and PS5, which frankly it doesn't need because it's selling like mad. Interesting. So this one sounds like it'd be a slight refresh, kind of a mid-gen refresh. It's been 4 years now since the Switch has been out. But yeah, a slightly larger OLED panel, so you get better black levels, but sticking with like a lower resolution, 720p. That seems to be the gist of it. The latest from Bloomberg, notoriously unreliable for tech news, I think. But anyways, I wouldn't be surprised if they have some sort of little revision this year.
Sure.
In some fashion. So, another new gadgets that will be coming. Sony has confirmed they're working on next generation PlayStation VR. We figured that would be the case, but they're talking about it and it's confirmed now, which is cool that they're not giving it up, because honestly, the PlayStation VR has managed to gain the best selection, not the most, the best selection of VR titles in my opinion, and I think others as well. So I'm happy to see they're continuing work on that. They're also continuing to bring games, their first party titles to the PC, as we've talked about on a previous episode, where it seems like the rate at which they're bringing their own titles to PC is increasing. And now they own part of Epic Games. We're going to see that as well. I think they're seeing the writing on the wall. Everyone's seeing the writing on the wall that, hardware takes a lot of research and development to create. You lose money on that hardware. If you can get people into a platform, that's amazing. But otherwise, your real money comes from your software and services you can sell. And so whatever device that's on, there's a lot of PC gamers now that are going to be able to play PlayStation games they never have been before. And that's going to be, if that's $40 to $60 a piece, spread out over a new audience. More
that's
money.
A good market.
Games. Yep.
Yeah. It's a good market and a growing market. And I mean, my God, everybody's on their computers nowadays. So it's so easy to switch over at the end of a work day from your, Zoom call to your, gaming screen and just get going. Yeah. So
I believe in 15 years, TVs will just come with a game controller.
Sure.
So Sony will obviously include their own PlayStation, DualSense or whatever controller. Microsoft will partner with Samsung, and they will include an Xbox controller. Other TVs will do, they'll make their own deals, and you'll be able to launch on most of them whatever app for any of them.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to launch your Xbox, your PlayStation app, and just start streaming your games. And for people that want the highest fidelity, they'll still have a box available.
Yep.
There'll be kind of like premium sound equipment, that you can still purchase. But yeah, I see things moving that way.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you. That would be perfectly normal to me, and I would be unsurprised even if that sort of thing is announced, next year or the year after. I mean, it wouldn't even shock me, wouldn't even faze me.
Yep. Microsoft, I think, plans to have their streaming service as on TVs this year. That's the plan. But I see it being within, a decade or so, becoming the norm. What most people do, getting, a lot of people not buying boxes anymore. They're just subscribed to their couple services. They play on literally whatever device with whatever controller they want. Yeah. So it's like we've talked about it before. You don't have to, generally speaking, you didn't have to own a certain brand Blu-ray player to watch a certain movie.
Yep.
You could watch any movie on Blu-ray on your Blu-ray player. And I think it will get to be more and more like that in the gaming space as well. You don't have to buy a Sony digital player to play an album that's produced by Sony Music.
Exactly. Oh yeah, everything's going to be pretty ubiquitous. It's just going to be, it's the companies making like the IP, not, like you said, not the hardware.
Content is king, not the rights.
Yeah.
Yes. Speaking of some content we're probably losing, though, Japan studio is closing, which for the most part, it's closing pretty much. There's some different teams within the studio. It's very old. It's older than PlayStation itself, even. And they are responsible for a lot of kind of classic PlayStation titles. Parappa the Rapper, Ape Escape, Shadow of the Colossus, one of my top 5 favorite games. Some big players in that company have been leaving, that team have been leaving and making their own studios and different stuff. So there's some people being shuffled. There's a team that's staying behind that's going to be responsible for the Astrobot games yet. So that's not going away. But yeah, they just haven't had anything that's really sold well in a long time. So
yeah, it's too bad. It's too bad. I mean, it happens.
Yep. Yeah, I will try to talk very quickly about it because it's probably something I should talk more at length about later. But Sony has been moving away from focusing on the Japanese market, which is very weird. But that's the way I've always looked at it recently. But it's come to my attention that it's more that Japan is moving away from Sony. Sony, it's not for the lack of Sony trying. It's just that to such a large degree, if you're not a portable handheld Nintendo system or a mobile phone, the Japanese market is not interested in you.
Sure.
And so they even tried with the PS Vita, which failed to make a real dent in the then like Nintendo DS market there. And so it's like that was kind of the last attempt to make sense, sort of why they killed it earlier then. And then they came out with this PS5 that's this giant block of a system that the Japanese market wouldn't be interested in because the Japanese market's just moved on from what PlayStation offers. PlayStation has come, they've been offering the same things, great stories in games, good variety in games, Japanese games, partnerships, but people want to play on the go, light handheld and mobile games. And so if they don't do those things, if all of a sudden they switch and they're going to make a ton of mobile games, maybe Sony could make it in Japan, but it doesn't sound like that's the case anymore. So,
right.
So, yeah. Interestingly enough, I think Microsoft has a good chance in Japan because of their game streaming to phones.
Yeah.
That could be could be a thing.
Yeah, I was just thinking that as well. Obviously, they're not doing any better with like the Xbox per se,
Right.
but the fact that they're a little bit more adaptable for mobility gives them a little bit of an edge in terms of like obviously things that people are going to play, not necessarily like you said, the fact that they've made games with the Japanese market in mind. You know, content of games, I should say.
Yep. A little more bad PlayStation news before we get to some good ones. So the Sony had a state of play, which they had not had in quite some time. It was pretty boring. They do these things that they're just showing the same stuff again, mostly.
Sure.
They just do not need to hold an event to pump up expectations to show the same things that we've seen before. We almost learned nothing here. There were very few like large scale games that were really shown off. They could have just easily dropped these videos on YouTube and they would have gotten people's attention. They would have seen it and there would have been no letdown because there was no expectation.
Sure.
So don't hold an event that's advertised if you don't have something really new to show. That shouldn't be difficult to understand. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like we've unfortunately made that point several times, you know, over the course of this summer and into you know, when gaming was kind of like the events were coming in a little bit hot and heavy, and now, you know, in this springtime where they're ramping up again. Yeah, it's really frustrating as an audience member to get hyped up and get excited and then see something that's such a letdown that I've seen before, that's not presented in a great way, that's buried too much. Yeah, just either, you know, I feel like there's like a certain way that you can organize an event where, you know, you kind of first do a maybe like broad like introduction of your content and then hold several like following events that either focus exclusively on, you know, one of your titles more in depth, or, you know, you do something like, oh, this is completely new, great, but there's just so much recycled material that it makes me really wary anytime a gaming company or, you know, some or any sort of like gaming I don't know, system just kind of like announces an event.
Yeah, it makes you question the timeline that they have planned out when you just keep showing the same things over and over. It's like, well, you know, if you don't have anything really, just
tell me that. Or
Yeah.
keep your mouth shut, or just tell me that. You know, if you've done an event where, you know, you advertised a game being available and now it's not going to be in the timeline, so you're like, oh, what do we do to like stretch and fill the time gap? Nothing is your answer. Just like either tell me that, you know, it's coming later, or just keep your mouth shut until somebody asks about it.
Yep. Okay, in good PlayStation news, well, I will say they ended the show with a new expansion for Final Fantasy VII Remake coming.
Yeah.
Available for next gen systems or current gen systems now, I guess. And for the PlayStation Plus games for March, coincidentally or not, I don't know, Final Fantasy VII Remake is part of that lineup.
Yes,
some other decent games as well, but this is a pretty good selection if you are a member of PlayStation Plus in the month of March. So you do not get the free upgrade to the new expansion if you have this version, but nonetheless, here it is. And I've downloaded it. I started playing a little bit. If anyone's interested, I was just doing some side quests that I streamed. They're available here on Twitch and on YouTube under the Gamecast section. So, yeah, if you're into Final Fantasy, the remake has looked interesting to you. Yeah, sign up for PlayStation Plus this month. They're free. So, and also they're doing this play at home thing. I forgot what game they did last time, but this time it's Ratchet and Clank.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, even
fun.
if you're not a PlayStation Plus member, You even have to have a PlayStation. You have to have a PlayStation account, and you can log on, and you can basically claim the game or whatever, I believe. So you can just go and download it, have it there, play it, and by the time you're done with it or whatever, you'll get a little break before the sequel comes out. So sequel is supposed to be this year. So good timing. Another free game. It's good.
Good game.
So yeah. In as far as I should say quickly too that I have ordered successfully, supposedly, a PlayStation 5.
Hey, so, check you out.
I know, right?
Finally getting your hands on one.
System, yeah. It's sadly moved from will be delivered Tuesday to like order placed.
Okay.
Just order placed.
Okay.
We'll tell you when we have one to send you.
Sure.
Basically is what the gist of it is, but
that's interesting.
So yeah, we'll keep you updated, I guess.
Okay.
In PlayStation, like Hall of Fame, if there was one, Tomb Raider would definitely be part of it. And this last month was the Tomb Raider 25th anniversary. If you're watching the podcast, you can see this is like a redesigned version of like the first game's cover and stuff. There's been some cool celebrations. They're going through each game in the franchise over the course of the year. So they really are doing some cool celebrations. I watched a video that's an interview with the original voice actress, and the interview was asking her, what she thought about the character of Lara Croft and what she's meant to her, and, all this different stuff. They kind of had little audio segments from other voice actresses that have played the role as well. There's a bunch of fan art. So you can visit, it's a relaunch of a very well-known fan site, laracroftpt.com. And you got to translate it to English, but your browser will do it for you. And they're responsible for this art. And it seems like they're working with Crystal Dynamics and Square Enix in their celebration of the 25th anniversary going forward here. So
fun.
Very cool. A very prominent video game character that has been around for 25 years and is still in games that are yet highly regarded. So yeah, it's cool to see. Do you ever play Tomb Raider?
I did, yeah.
Okay, nice.
Not much. It wasn't like a staple, but
sure.
Played enough to like get the gist of the game and the character before, the movies had come out featuring the first movies, obviously featuring Angelina Jolie, not the Alicia Vikander, which I don't believe went over well.
Supposedly they're making a sequel.
Really? Interesting.
Yep, they're supposedly making a sequel. I believe it's being whoever's doing it, I think, is responsible for Lovecraft Country.
Ooh, okay.
So I think director. Maybe it's I don't remember if it's writer or director, but I think director.
Okay.
So yeah, so same, actress, but new mind behind it. So we'll see. And they're also making an animated series.
Yes, well. I did know that.
So yeah, good stuff to look forward to there. They also announced that, I guess in the fan community, that's very divided between the older Lara Croft Tomb Raider games and the newer ones.
Sure.
And they definitely announced that they're trying to bring the kind of timelines together. The newer ones sort of introduce Lara Croft and how she became the Tomb Raider. And so they're less happy with like her not being as confident or as worldly or whatever, as they are as she is in the originals.
Right.
But it chronologically makes sense. So supposedly future games going forward are going to be taking place after the older ones even. And so it will be her as like, mature, having done this, seasoned professional.
Interesting.
So in other anniversaries, Pokemon is celebrating their 25th anniversary, and they had a concert with Post Malone. Did you see it?
I did not know.
Uh,
That, oh boy.
I mean, but I mean, I watched it and I can't say that, I'm not a 14-year-old girl, so I don't have big thoughts on Post Malone, but I didn't expect it, I guess, but I kind of
Yeah.
enjoyed the video. It was kind of neat.
It's an odd
Uh,
choice. I don't know who I would think of if I was Pokemon and looking for, an artist to do a concert in celebration of our 25th anniversary. I just know that probably Post Malone wouldn't have been like my first thought.
You should find the dude that sang his soul out for the original Pokemon theme song.
Absolutely. That is iconic. And I
Yeah.
definitely still know all the words.
So, but
Or
supposedly
the
they're gonna.
voice actor who does the Jigglypuff little
Yep.
dream song.
Yep.
Yeah. Where's that? Where's Post Malone's talents in that arena?
Yeah. They're supposedly though continuing the celebration throughout the year, and there's going to
Yes.
be more musical performances, including Katy Perry. So we'll see
Okay.
how that goes.
It's kind of
Oh
fun.
boy, Alan, you're trying to
Jason
make
Page.
I said we should have a shorter episode, and not helping in this, and Alan, you're not helping either. Jason Page. I'm assuming this is American singer, born 1969.
I'm
singing
guessing
the Pokemon
is
theme song. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Jason Page, whoever you are, you're a hero.
Yep. In terms of gaming events, that did go well, I think. It seems like fan reaction says so anyways. It was the Pokemon Direct that was Friday, the 26th. They showed off remakes of Diamond and Pearl. So they're called Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. In an updated art style, but otherwise supposedly pretty faithful remakes. And then an early look at Pokemon Legends Arceus, I guess.
You got me.
Yeah. And that's like everybody's dubbing, Pokemon Breath of the Wild. It looks more like Breath of the Wild. It's a very open world. Pokemon are roaming free. You run around, and so
and that's going to be new. Yeah.
Right.
Although it's based in the Sinnoh region, just like Diamond and Pearl are as well. So kind of interesting that they're choosing that region to like focus on this year between remakes and the new game. But
yeah,
okay, sure.
I thought I heard about a reason for that or something, but yeah,
could be.
I'm not big. I've never been big into playing the Pokemon video games other than Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
So the Pokemon game that's more interesting to me, I guess, is Pokemon Snap, because I did play that a little bit.
Sure.
But I'd probably only pick that up cheap or something. So
sure.
Yeah. But I think Pokemon fans are mostly happy. You're never going to make them all happy, but yeah.
You're never going to catch them all.
Nope.
Oh, no.
All right. So we have a couple episodes of WandaVision to get to. Spoilers. This is WandaVision episodes 7 and 8. Next week, or this week, end of this week, will be the finale.
Oh my God.
So next week we can cover the finale and our overall thoughts on the show before then Winter Soldier and Captain Falcon starting. So what do you think? What do you think of these? A lot happened.
Yeah. I can't even believe that next week is going to be the final episode, because there just seems to be way too much to figure out for this to be the final episode. I can't figure out if this means, that we're getting a second season of WandaVision, or that this is just going to be like the most massive setup for their appearance in, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I can't figure it out, because there's so much here. So much has happened, and it feels like we got two very, very, very huge reveals in these last two episodes, between Agatha Harkness and her identity being finally
Yep.
revealed. And then also at the end of episode 8, and I know I'm jumping between the two, so we can go back and like,
Yeah. I mean, it's
go episode by episode. But the fact that we have two visions now,
yeah.
technically, and I don't know, like corporeally, in real body form, like who's who and who matters more and whatnot, and like who is true vision, because we're still not really even sure, even with the reveal of these last two episodes, what this vision is actually made out of and how he's been created.
Mm,
I know Agatha this says like Wanda's created this world, of Westview out of chaos magic, but we haven't been
right.
given any explanation for what exactly that is.
Yep.
And as I noted in some of my show notes, um, you know, in the episode where we first see Wanda's power just exploding out of her and turning Westview into the 50s sitcom that it was at the beginning, um, all of her magic is scarlet tinged. But when a certain piece comes out of her to form Vision's body, it's yellow, like the
Yep.
Mind Stone. So
Yep.
does that have any significance, or is it, symbolic because she was touched by the Mind Stone? Vision, of course, carried the stone. Like, is this just some sort of like symbolism, or does this mean something different?
Yeah.
So I know I threw
Uh,
a lot out there, so we
right.
can go
No,
back and
it's
approach it in a more logical fashion, but that's just the way these episodes left me feeling like, holy
yeah.
crap.
Yeah,
So
no,
good,
and
but so much.
that's the, that's the impact. That's what's interesting here. And I think that like with Vision, we get it's the body versus the mind now because
Mhm.
Wanda's essentially brought back Vision's soul in a way. Like we can find out more specifically maybe what that is. But to a large part, Vision has seemed like Vision, and Vision has seemed like he's wanted to do the right thing. He
Mhm.
has a conscience there that is separate from what Wanda is controlling, you
Yeah.
know. So there is a level of autonomy there. And then the body of the White Vision there now, um, he is that's his actual body. I mean,
Mhm.
it's there put back together. So I
Right.
mean, the thing that obviously can set up a lot of people's hope is, well, okay, he's gonna have to fight himself, and basically his mind or his soul is gonna be put back into the body.
Mhm.
Now that might be a little hopeful,
Mhm.
but
Yeah,
certainly possibility.
it's certainly a possibility, and it's very interesting to think about, just because like I said, with Wanda bringing back, what we might consider his soul or his essence. How corporeal is that? Like, how tangible is that? I mean, he's certainly been able to interact with people. They've certainly touched him. What is there? What is he? What is the vision that we've been watching? Not necessarily the body,
Mm,
of the android that Sword kept, the what they called their like sentient weapon or whatever. um are the boundaries, the limits of what exists in Westview and what Wanda created or brought back or altered, and how might that have repercussions for, you know maybe it's just not like slipping back into the old body, maybe we can't do that.
yeah. Yep. Yeah, I guess one of my bigger disappointments, just as a fan coming in and trying
Mhm.
to figure out, this as we go along, has been Pietro. Um,
I got
Fake
you.
Pietro
Fake
here.
Pietro,
That
I got you.
yeah, that seems like he's probably not in any way an X-Men. Like he's
Mhm.
not from that world, nothing. Like it's still so odd that that's the image chosen. That's the face that
Right.
she chose. Like why that face when she would know then what her brother looks like? If she's gonna bring in her
Right.
brother,
Right.
why wouldn't it be his face from this world. It's
Well,
still odd, but he
yeah.
doesn't seem real. So
So one thing that was encouraging to me was the fact that Agatha Harkness seemed also confused by it. You know what I mean? Like
mm,
she was like, "Well, this isn't your brother because your brother is on another continent and dead." And so she sort of like, you know,
yeah,
like straight up talked about that. And she's like, "This isn't your brother." But she was like, "So what is his deal?" And then he sort of like, catches her snooping around. He also seems to have like some other thing going on, so I feel like we got dropped this bomb and then they sort of forgot what to do with it. And I'm hoping that in this final episode we're going to get some sort of clarity there. But
sure,
it's really hard to imagine because I feel like we're looking for clarity in so many things, in so many
yep,
plot storylines right now. And
yep.
obviously there are bigger fish to fry. But yeah. Yeah, I'm holding out a little bit of hope that maybe there's something there.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know. It seems to me that like I read today that they're intending to because that's everybody's question is how possibly can you wrap this up?
Right.
They want to give a story that feels good ending with this season, but propels it forward into Doctor Strange and Spider-Man.
Mhm.
So I think that we're going to have a lot of unanswered questions. It's just what is the central pull of this story that they're going to want to wrap up. And I saw one theory that the idea is it's about the ability to let go and move on. So
Sure.
that Vision must die so that, it's not a lingering continual thing here
Mhm.
for her and that she can continue on. And then that could possibly like make her even, you know, lose more control here and spiral things further.
Yeah, it's hard because these last few episodes, we've actually gotten to see the fact that like Wanda was dealing with Vision's death. Like she wasn't in the best place about it. She wasn't like, not grieving. Um, but the fact that she like came to Sword and just felt like I just want to claim his body. I just want to give him a
Hmm.
funeral. She didn't seem wild or crazed or, totally lost or, you know what I mean? There was
Yep.
no sense of um her being unhinged about the fact that he had
Right.
died. Certainly traumatized as she had to kill him, have that be undone and then watch him die again. I mean,
Yep.
nobody's going to be perfect after that, but there was no sense of like her being unbalanced
Yep.
until sword director Dick, as I like to call him, pushed her buttons and was like, look at us rip his body apart, look at us treat him like terribly inhumanely. How do you feel about this? And that's when she sort of lost it. And even then
But it wasn't
she didn't
even then,
lose it. Yeah, she didn't even lose it to the extent of like, what we were shown in what's clearly a fake videotape of her like stealing Vision's body.
Yep.
She didn't lose it until she like got the final effects from Vision and that
Yep.
included like these plans for a life together. So
Yeah.
it's very interesting that I mean, it almost seems like what was this whole season for then if she was dealing, if she was
Well,
if she was
she was
there to move
trying to deal
forward.
with it,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
clearly she wasn't. I mean, if she hadn't gone through there, and anyone else that's normal was able to cry out in pain and anguish
Mhm.
and be that part of their process, of letting this out, and so
Sure.
you going through those steps, you are saying goodbye to the body.
Mhm.
You're treading your last steps to like where you're planning to be or whatever, and it makes sense for a person to maybe break down then, and then you pick yourself back up and you continue forward.
Mhm.
But being the superpower that she is, she didn't have that ability, So, she
Yeah.
lets go and causes all this chaos literally,
Mhm.
and then sets herself backwards unintentionally, because now she is thrust into
Right.
like this fantasy that's difficult to give up.
Right, but it almost seems that the show is suggesting that if she hadn't, gone to the town of Westview and seen that little property, she could have made it through just fine. Do you know what I
Maybe.
mean? Like or potentially. I mean, there could have been something else that triggered her. So maybe that's like really the intent is like anything could have happened. It just happened to be this. But yeah, it felt set up in a very weird way where Wanda was coping, not, again, not doing the best job ever, but again, horrible, horrible, tragic circumstances. So doing whatever we can. But then this one thing like set her off and then
Yeah.
caused this whole mess.
And I mean, I like it to, I didn't know where they were going to go, but I like the explanation, because the way it seemed set up for so long is that this was intentional, and it was hard to believe her saying, well, I don't
Yeah.
know how this has happened, all that. But this to me makes a lot of sense,
Mhm.
that and it's why Sword would be afraid of her. It's why uh Agatha is afraid of her and worried about her, because it's like, she said herself, you're incredibly dangerous.
Mhm.
She is this super powered being that has had no training to get where she is,
Mhm.
that has, clearly little, in ways, little control over the power she wields, or at least no understanding of it.
Right.
And so, yeah, she's a danger, and it's like, it's not her fault that that's the case, but it still is the case. And I kind of hope they go down a route. I don't know if they're going to, but supposedly in the comics, Agatha at points has even trained a
Mhm.
Scarlet Witch.
Yeah.
And so it'd be interesting to have that kind of thing, that if she eventually becomes part of the solution to helping her control her powers,
Mhm.
or if Professor Xavier does. But
That would be quite a thing to introduce in the final episode.
oh yeah, no, I don't anticipate it in the last episode,
Yeah.
but down the line, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I it's hard to imagine, based on the way that this, sort of 2-episode arc has gone, that Agatha Harkness could be her mentor. I feel
right,
like in the comics, she's presented a little bit more neutrally, whereas here, we got the big reveal that Agnes is Agatha, and she's been knowing what's happening all along. She's just been playing along because she wants, to see where this is all going. And then she got her own like Cruella DeVille inspired, intro song all about or Agatha all along. And
yep,
uh seemed a little bit more like, okay, we're on the side of, of evil or bad or, negative energy, whatever you want to term it. I'm not
yep.
really certain, but it's certainly a little bit more biased that way than I think her character is presented sometimes in the comics when she has, mentored Wanda.
So, what do you think of the Modern Family, Office kind of theme of episode 7, and then of Monica Rambeau's continue like evolution of her abilities?
Yeah. So I enjoyed that like sort of confessional,
Mhm.
fourth wall breaking, especially when it came to Wanda herself because it really gave us a glimpse into like her mind unraveling. And then it would be broken up with, pieces of literal Westview unraveling. And she couldn't keep the illusion going because she couldn't figure out, what to control, what was happening, which part's an illusion
Yep.
and which yeah. So that to me was really fun. Um, also very effective with Vision. Just being
He's
like,
like being interviewed. He's like, "Why am I?"
"When
He's like
waste
not
my
in the mic.
time."
Right? Yeah.
pretty great. And then of
Yeah.
course, I thought it was really fun because we got to see Agnes / Agatha, um, reveal her secrets as well. So that was kind of a fun nod to we're still doing this, because we're still playing along with Wanda. And
Hmm.
um I think offered us like a nice transition into, like I said, revealing everybody's like inner thoughts, inner secrets, and then transitioned well into why WandaVision has been presented this way. In our next episode,
Yeah.
we delve deep into
Yeah.
the mind of Wanda, and we understand her psyche and her obsession with American sitcoms, um,
Yep.
of every genre, of every time frame, why this has been happening. So
Yep.
I really enjoyed that. I thought the framing, the sitcom framing of this show was brought to like a nice conclusion.
Yep. Hmm. We got to see in an emotional way
Mm.
her inspiration here all along. And I think that probably episode 8 was probably my favorite episode.
Mm.
Like, it just was well done. We learned a lot. We got to learn more about Wanda's past.
Mm.
That's been pretty mysterious otherwise.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it was well done.
Though in some ways still remains mysterious, as nobody seems
Yeah.
to have worked out what exactly happened to her when she touched that Infinity Stone.
Yeah.
Even us as the viewer getting more than the researchers doing the experimenting on her, we still don't know exactly what that was and what happened
Yep.
and why she survived and developed the way she did.
Yeah.
So that was kind of
I
interesting.
mean, yeah. Maybe she's absorbed part of like you say, absorbed part of the Mind Stone, and part of that was released when she created Vision.
Vision again, yeah.
Because I feel like the colors there, like you say, aren't coincidental.
Yeah,
It's not just for funsies there. So
right. Yeah, it's interesting that all along she wouldn't have had yellow magic tied to the
mhm.
Mind Stone. That she is the Scarlet
Yep.
Witch. And she's always had that like sort of red scarlet power. And now here it
Yep.
wouldn't have been the same. So yeah.
I was watching this episode. I was just crossing my fingers. They're just gonna be like, "You're different because you're a mutant. You're a mutant."
Well,
You haven't heard about mutants? Oh, I've heard about them in my magical circles, whatever, I don't know.
I mean, we don't really exactly know, what being a witch entails in the Marvel universe. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
right. No,
we don't know
absolutely.
that that's not some form of mutation,
Yep.
even if we're not directly calling it that. Because I mean, we get that like Agatha is a witch, but we also don't get much more than that either, other than that
Right.
she's incredibly old, clearly incredibly powerful as she takes down like her own coven, who's trying to get
Right.
her. So, and
Yep.
she's taking on Scarlet Witch within boundaries, certainly, but um
It's experience over,
right,
you. So,
certainly believes herself capable to an extent of matching Wanda for now.
mhm.
So, yeah.
And Sword is gonna just just end of the episode. I was like, this is a great idea. Just make her more mad. It's gonna
Yeah.
go well for you. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
Just
I love
oh,
this. I
yeah.
love this sword director. He is just the smartest guy. Uh yeah.
I mean, I just don't know what the plan is. Like, it's
Yeah.
I
Well,
guess, Vision will be a threat, and difficult to deal with. And maybe they're playing on the idea that she's going to like sympathize and realize that this is his body, and so
right.
that will make, provide an opening or something. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there was a point to the sword director like being such a dick to her and like showing her like what was clearly going to be traumatizing when he was like literally ripping Vision's body apart. I thought, okay, maybe he thinks she's going to do something that, will bring Vision back and then he gets his weapon again. But that was like the only thing I could think of as to why in the world, you would show her that.
Yeah. I mean, maybe he's trying to antagonize her
Mhm.
in a way because, it could just be simply that he's not understanding the relationship that she had with Vision and that, he is continuing referring to it as it,
Yeah,
this is not a person. So like if there's a confusion there about the emotion for an AI. Like this is a
right,
body that was designed here is not yours or your property. It literally is our property
right.
and doesn't have a soul in it or anything like that. So, like
Which
what's your deal? And not understanding that kind of connection.
Yeah, which still doesn't quite make sense to me, as to how Sword got Vision's body. Do you know
Well,
what I
because
mean? Like,
they're
they
the
didn't
government
develop him.
entity. What's that?
They didn't develop him. At least that's not what Age of
Right.
Ultron would have us believe.
Right.
So,
Well,
how in the
it
world
falls under their purview of a sentient weapon, you
it
know.
it does,
So
sure. It feels like one of those things that, like, I don't know, that somehow Tony Stark would have been all over and been like, you know, given the finger to a government entity and being like,
yeah,
"No, can't have it."
I
And I
can
know
see that, but
obviously
also
he's dead now, but it feels like Vision died first, so in the interim time, like, Tony would have, you know,
right.
spirited him away because we do get the reference in these episodes to, um, Vision's past where he covers a ton of ground while he's talking to Darcy in that, I think, waffle truck or something, um,
Mhm.
where he starts out and he's like, "Oh, okay, so I was an AI named Jarvis, and then I,
Yep.
progressed here, and then I got here, and then I got here." So it seems so odd to me that, this wouldn't be a Stark Properties kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, but Tony, I mean, they kind of made the lay of his position in like Captain America Civil War, because they had it's like, no, you gotta sign these papers. We're beholden to our government officials
Yeah,
here
that's
to
true.
say, send us on missions and all this stuff. And so it's like kind of agreeing that we're gonna have Shield, we're gonna have Sword,
That's
we're gonna
true.
have these
That's true.
different organizations. And but
I do, yeah,
yeah,
I
I don't
I
know.
do tend to forget about that because Civil War is one of my least favorite,
Mm.
um, Marvel movies, so I tend not to remember the events of that as much, and I think more of, like, Iron Man 2 where he's, testifying before Congress and he's, like,
Oh yeah.
not giving them anything, so, yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, good point, good point.
I think that the thing that always shocks me is that how the Avengers or no one has intervened in this situation yet.
Yeah, mhm,
That other people have not been gotten aware of this. But I
mhm,
think that's where we're going to get in the next episode. I
sure,
think that's where it's going to be taken out of Sword's hands. It devolves too far that it becomes noticed by others,
yeah,
and that moves it into further other areas of the cinematic universe because
yeah,
yeah, if this this is a threat, like it's something that it makes sense that Doctor Strange would detect this
right,
level of intense magic on such a large scale.
right.
uh I think that makes it's like got to be like a giant beacon.
Right. Well, and if that isn't the case, if he doesn't discover it, organically that way, it'd be a nice tie-in for maybe Monica to be the one to send out the
Yes.
alert, at that
Yep.
point, kind of bring her back because she felt it was so interesting. She felt really central there for a minute and then, she was shoved out of the way by Agatha again. So she
Yep.
keeps getting these like fits and starts where it's like, oh, we're seeing her relation to this, we're seeing her relation to Sword, how she relates to Wanda. We're seeing the beginning of her developing, her abilities. We got
Yep.
more of that in this episode, which was great, but then she got shunted to the side again
Yep.
for Agatha, which I get narrative wise it had to happen because Agatha's story was more important, but
Yep.
yeah, be a good way
I
to
like
bring her back.
I like it because it feels like a natural way to introduce someone and give some backstory. Like she is contributing to the show, and we are learning about her and seeing her powers develop. And
Mhm.
it feels natural and not like it's something shoehorned in. We don't need a whole nother episode explaining something about her specifically. We don't need an origin story about, because we're
We're in
seeing
it.
it go through, right. We're seeing it, and it's just an example of a way that they've had something well thought out. They had this character we want to incorporate. How can we incorporate her?
Mhm.
And it feels like it's something natural. And I'm excited to see what she does in this next one, because I feel like
Mhm.
there's going to be some sort of throwdown here. We're going to get a little more of a sense of the usefulness of her abilities, and she's going to find out a little more of the usefulness of her abilities.
Mhm.
And yeah, maybe it's, yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. I've
Yeah.
I've been wrong a lot here in our guesstimations, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. This final episode feels really crucial. Um, and not just in a, it's the last episode of a season kind of way. It feels like there is a lot riding on this episode
Yep.
between, what are we going to do about Monica? What are we going to do with Agatha? What are we going to do with Two Visions? Um,
Yeah.
and
Kids,
kids. Yep.
Pietro.
Pietro. Yeah. What are we going to do with all of these people who who have been introduced or developed or, brought along in some very crucial aspect, but there's no like one step wrap up, it seems like,
Yep.
so.
Nope. And they said that they have lots of plans for Scarlet Witch yet.
Mhm.
They're like, so I think that yeah, I think this to me is going to be it seems like it's going to be a great springboard
Mhm.
into what's to come. I just want to see if they can make it also a great one series compact thing.
Mhm.
Can it be a self-contained entity that is enjoyable start to finish, and it has
Mhm.
enough through lines and like connecting plot that like wraps up and makes sense whilst propelling us forward into
Mhm.
much more. So
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think the most crucial storyline, of course, um to wrap up, if that were to be the case, would be Visions.
sure.
Everybody else has potential possibilities for
Yeah.
appearances elsewhere. Vision could too,
Yep.
but of course, like, you know, being fairly well established that he died, um, wrapping up his story in either some meaningful way or providing a very logical explanation for how he would, like we've intimated, reunite whatever is left of his soul, his essence with this android body.
Yep.
It's crucial to make that either work to include him in future storylines or to have Wanda get some closure. So,
Yep. Yep.
yeah.
All right. Well, only 2 more days.
Yes.
Two more
Yes.
days. So
Excellent.
I think that Falcon and Winter Soldier has something to live up to.
Yeah, big
Again, I
shoes to
feel
fill.
it's gonna be jarring, you know, and yeah. So
Yeah,
I'm intrigued.
this has really been good. I mean, I was so nervous for it heading into the first episode of the series, and after one episode we were intrigued but unsure.
Yep.
And really, this season, I think, as it's progressed, has really impressed me. And I
Yep.
hope that, they can finish strong now in the final episode.
It's been like, as much as I give them give them heck and I have issues or whatever, it has been good to see like Feige back, his master plan back in action, as he
Yes,
can, as the whole Marvel cinematic universe continues.
indeed.
So. All right. Not a shorter episode. But there's a lot to cover, and
Yeah.
if you guys reach out to us, you can let us know what have you not hearing enough about, or what are you hearing too much about?
Yeah.
Do you not care about our weeks? Would you rather us just skip that and you don't know anything that we're doing or whatever? Maybe that's boring to you. Maybe it's like, we don't need news because, when we cover news, it's usually not breaking news. It's just, things
Except for
happening,
Alan's future article.
I know, yeah. He's got that special link.
That's right.
Tomorrowland, yeah. It's just an article from Japan,
Yeah, there you go.
Hours ahead. So, yeah. But anyways, yeah, give us feedback here on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, whatever you like. Follow us in all of those places, or at least a couple of them. Let us hear from you, and check out our website. You can also subscribe on your favorite podcast directory. We're on a bunch of them, most of them. So I know there's always kind of endless, and there's more and more of them, but Apple Podcasts, Spotify, that kind of thing, you can find us there. Anchor, we use Anchor to produce the podcast. So check us out there as well. Thank you to Killing the Flower for our theme song. They are on Spotify, YouTube, and Instagram. So go ahead and give them a follow and like as well. Friday afternoon, I should be most likely streaming with my brother-in-law, Lucas333. That's Lucas with a K here on Twitch. Probably be playing Spellbreak would be my guess, but you never know. Tune in for that. Can check out on YouTube my own game streaming stuff some. It's not as fancy, haven't been doing it too much, but that's there as well. What else? Anything else?
You covered it. Nailing it.
All right.
Nailing that closing, John.
So yeah, we'd like to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week with the finale of WandaVision and the overall series thoughts. I know we've given some of them now, but you can hear how that's changed after one more episode.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. It's not over till it's over. So, we could go back on every single thing we've said in today's episode. All it takes is one to change everything. So we'll see.
Right.
Could be epic.
It like cited, or a number one, go to the index and see Star Wars. It's
That's right.
So for how it can all be ruined.
That's right.
All right. Well, thanks for joining me again, Andrea, and hopefully see you all next week.
Sounds good. Cheers, everybody.